Alright, so recently Alex O'Connor, aka Cosmic Skeptic, made a TikTok video responding to a question about the morality of eating backyard eggs. And for the most part, he does a very good job of explaining the harm of keeping chickens specifically for their eggs. However, there is an argument he makes that I disagree with, and I wanted to make a video to respond to that. Now, this is not a call out of Alex. He's a fairly new vegan, and I'm really glad to have him on our side. He's got a brilliant mind and he's exceptionally intelligent, but I do think this argument he made needs to be addressed, and I'm making this video in the hope that he sees it and maybe it makes him change his mind. Who knows? So let's see what Alex has to say in this clip about the ethics of eating backyard eggs.
Why are vegans against eating eggs if I get the eggs from chickens that I keep in my back garden and treat really nicely? This is a common question and a really good one. In my view, somewhat controversially to some vegans, I don't care if there's no suffering. If you're not causing suffering to an animal to get eggs, then you go ahead and get those eggs, right? I don't care about you eating eggs. I care about you causing harm to an animal in order to get those eggs. No suffering, no problem. The issue is that it's not always as straightforward as this. For instance, where do you get those chickens from that you have in your back garden? Most people will buy them from breeders who are still breeding those chickens in hatcheries, which is terrible for the animals. Also, these chickens tend to be genetically bred to lay far, far more eggs than they would do in the wild, which is an uncomfortable experience for them and leads to bone deficiencies such as osteoporosis, which, believe it or not, is common among chickens because the calcium is redirected from their bones to the eggshells that they're producing. So it sounds strange, but the common practice in sanctuaries is to feed the eggs of those chickens back to the chickens to replenish the nutrients. But any eggs that are left over, I think, are fine to eat.
So Alex there basically saying that he sees no moral issue with the eating of leftover eggs at sanctuaries. I'm going to quickly explain why I do see a moral issue with this. Essentially, by identifying as an egg eater, we're playing into that idea that eggs are food for us and that chickens are commodities. Our job as animal rights activists is to break that cycle of thought the carnist world has that currently deems chickens to be these little vending machines that just go pop, pop, pop and dispense food for us. If we look at how non-vegans see other egg-laying animals, such as, tarantulas or iguanas, they never deem them to be food or dispensers of food. No one ever says about someone's pet gecko, for example, "Oh, do they lay eggs for you?" Alex does say in the clip that he has no problem so long as no harm is caused, but ultimately I think the idea of eating backyard eggs does cause harm in the long run, because it perpetuates the cycle of exploitation we want the world to get away from. By eating their leftover eggs, what we're doing is using these chickens for what the farmer intended them for. It's playing into the chicken farmer's narrative. It's in a roundabout way saying, "I agree with your decision to breed these chickens for their eggs. Thank you, Mr. or Mrs. Farmer, for feeding the nation and bringing these birds into existence." As vegans, we shouldn't be thanking chicken farmers in any way, and that's ultimately what we're doing by consuming what essentially is their product that they want people to eat. What farmers don't want, however, is for chickens to be seen in the same way that tarantulas are seen, and for their eggs to not be considered food for us. In fact, that's the chicken farmer's worst nightmare. And nothing goes to show just how much chickens' bodies have been commodified than when people call it a waste to throw these leftover eggs away. The only way it could be deemed waste is if you saw eggs as food. The truth is they're not. They're a bodily secretion. You know, if I spit on the floor and someone doesn't lick it up off the floor, that's not a waste. And the same goes with the stuff that comes out of a chicken's backside. Throw that shit away. It's not wasteful because it's not food. The only way it's quote unquote food is if you're playing straight into the farmer's playbook and seeing eggs in the way the farmer wants you to see them. Anyway, shout out to Alex for going vegan. He's already changing the minds of so many people who watch his channel. And hey, Alex, I hope I can change your mind with this. As per usual, folks, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. And if you want to support my work, head to patreon.com/Carnism Debunked. Until next time.